All right, we are recording. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming this evening. We are going to introduce you to Flex Online School and what kindergarten at Flex Online is like. My name is Paul Autumn. I'm the principal of Flex Online. I have an amazing team with me this evening. We'll let them introduce themselves as they go. I do have a couple of support folks with me. I have Sarah Langton, who works in all different kinds of capacities for our school. And then I have Vince Radistitz, who is the head of our communications with the school. And so thank you both so much for coming. It looks like Alexis is not able to hear audio. I don't know if somebody wants to maybe help out in the chat on that. Thanks so much, Sarah, appreciate it. All right, Vince, if you don't mind, would you go ahead and start sharing for me? Make sure that you can. I believe you can now, Vince. Excellent, thank you so much. All right. We are Flex Online School. Our mascot is the fox. No coincidence that they both say F and X in them, the Flex Foxes. We're so glad you're here this evening. Again, my name is Paul Autumn. I'm the principal. And Vince, if you'd send us off to the next slide, please. Tonight, we have our rock star kindergarten staff with us. We have Paula Dell, Rebecca Duda, and Janet Pullis, and they will be going through several of the aspects of kindergarten and what it's like to be a teacher in kindergarten and working with families and the schedule and etc. We are so glad they're here this evening, and we will let them take over here in just a minute. Next slide, please, Vince. So kindergarten at Flex Online, a couple of things that are very important to know. We are a rolling enrollment, and so you can enroll your student, your kindergartner at Flex Online anytime before school starts. We don't have a cap, so you don't have to be concerned about, oh my goodness, they're gonna run out of space. We can take all comers. And so at any point, if you're interested in learning more, you can visit our website, and we're also happy to help you with that. And I'll show you that a little bit later on in the presentation this evening. We are the first full online K-12 school in the Beaverton School District. And so we have students all the way across the spectrum. And this is our first year, and it's been an amazing year. So I'm going to go ahead and let our kindergartner teachers take it away. So Becca, I believe you are up next.
Thank you. All right, next slide. Might be the next 2 slides. Tonight we're going to talk about looking at Flex and what we provide on an online school environment. We'll talk about our typical day and social skills, and then also how to register. And again, I'm Rebecca Duda. I'm one of the kindergarten teachers. So next slide, please. So you might be wondering what makes Flex unique and how we're different. It's a lot less like this, with a lot of kids on the carpet in the classroom. Next slide. Or even this, kids crowded around the tables or on the right, separated like in a hybrid model. And it's more like this, where we're meeting together as a class on Zoom and talking and sharing. And next slide. And also like this, where we're meeting with them in small groups and teaching them directly on Zoom. And also like this, where we're meeting with them one-on-one and individually. Next slide. And Flex also has specials. When you think about specials in school this year, Flex offered Spanish and art. And then also we have counseling lessons with our counselor, and Ms. Clark will share more about counseling in later slides. Also at Flex, part of what it is having a learning coach with your child. We'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like in the relationship between us and the learning coach and the child. But regardless of grade level, every child at Flex needs to have a learning coach who's able to help them go through the curriculum. Looks different at different grade levels. Obviously, there's more support needed in kindergarten, but we have a robust online curriculum that my teammate, Mrs. Dell, is going to talk to you about.
Excellent. Hi, I'm Mrs. Dell. I also teach kindergarten. I wanted to first off let you know that iPads are provided for every student that attends Flex Online School. We use the Florida Virtual Curriculum, which is a comprehensive curriculum. We're going to watch a short video where you're going to see a glimpse of some of the lessons from Florida Virtual. You'll see how there's an option for a read to me. If you want your child to have some support, the device will read to your student. But during lessons, learning coaches are definitely allowed to also read to their students. You're also going to see a glimpse of a letter writing formation lesson and a math lesson using 10 frames and number bonds. This is just a glimpse. You are more than welcome to go to our website under academics. There's a link there where you can explore many other lessons in more depth. So let's start the video and then make it larger.
Let's learn about the letter L. Close your eyes and imagine you are on a safari. Feel the heat on your skin and smell the fresh air.
To write the uppercase L, start at the top and slide down to the bottom. Slide out to the right side.
And here's an example of the number bonds. When students do the right answer, there's lots of encouragement. And even if they do an incorrect answer, there's an encouragement.
Let's learn about the letter L.
All right, next slide.
Close your eyes. Imagine you are on a safari. Let's learn about the letter L.
All right, Becca.
So, if we can go back one slide, that would be great. In addition to the online curriculum, it's not just all on the computer all the time. It's hands-on as well. So in addition to that, we have things like building shelters for the sun was part of a science lesson. Next slide. There was a lesson about building a musical instrument. Next slide. Also building math shapes, 2D and 3D math shapes. Next slide. There's lots of opportunities for practice, whether it's paper, pencil on the right or cutting and coloring and gluing on the left. Next slide. And then there's also writing, whether that's with support on the left is from the curriculum or writing independently. It's one of my favorite parts of kindergarten, where we're taking children where they are. In the beginning of kindergarten, one of the most amazing things about kindergarten writing is they often start with labeling with just a few letters. And by the end of the year, we're writing sentences. And so it's just an incredible opportunity for writing growth in the kindergarten year. We will cover narrative writing, like with weekend news, where they're writing about themselves, and informative writing, and then also opinion writing, which they really love because they always like to tell us their likes and their dislikes, of course. And then Michelle's going to talk about.
So a typical day with Flex Online School is students will typically spend 1 to 3 hours in their self-directed lessons with their lessons embedded through Canvas with the program. And the great thing about Flex is it can be done any way that works best for your students. For example, you might do 30 minutes of work in the morning and then an hour after lunch and then another 30 minutes in the evening. The options are endless to meet the needs of your student and family. In addition, if Saturdays and Sundays work best for your family, you are more than welcome to spend time on the weekend doing lessons to free up time during the week if that is desirable. There are daily whole class lessons where students are invited to gather. They are optional lessons gather for calendar time, read aloud, songs, and sometimes supplemental lessons to support the curriculum that's online. In addition, students receive small group lessons that focus on reading. If your child needs additional support, teachers are more than willing to meet one-on-one as needed. And the remaining 2 to 4 hours daily are yours to spend as you desire. Next slide.
Paula, before you go on, sorry, Vince,
Yes.
can you go back? We had a question in the chat just about
Sure.
what to expect on the daily basis, and you covered it, but I feel like one of the, it kind of added this going off what a typical classroom setting is like. How is it different? I feel like if you just add, I mean, you did some of that, but I think from based on your experience in the classroom and then what this year was like, do you have anything else that might help?
So what we usually ask is that you have some kind of workspace available for your students. It doesn't have to be a desk, but just like some workspace that's designated for their work time. So then that way they know that when they're sitting in that space, that that's where they will be doing their lessons. And usually that's where you have your materials ready. And so your student will sit there with their learning coach and do their lessons. And then again, it depends on how you want to do it. Some students need frequent breaks. So some students do a half an hour of lesson and then a half an hour break and then a half an hour lesson. So the typical day can be arranged any way that you want to make it work best for you and your family. Our live lessons are usually held either between 8:30 and 11 or 12 and 3. What we did at the beginning of the year is we took a survey to see what was the best needs for our students and then developed our lessons based on that. So for example, my class, the majority of my students wanted their lessons in the morning. So most of my lessons, live lessons are in the morning, but I know the other teachers, some of them do theirs in the afternoon because that was more desirable for their students. And then the other thing that's nice is the lessons are recorded. So if you are unavailable to attend at that time, you're welcome to view them later if you would like. So if they need more clarification, please let me know.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I think that helps. Every little bit helps as a parent of a kindergartner. Just try to picture what might this be like.
Of course. And then next slide. And so this is what we mean by your free time. After you're done with your lessons, you decide you can go to the zoo, you can play at the playground, you can go skating. It's really up to you and your students how you want to spend the rest of your day in an enjoyable manner. Next slide.
Okay, hi, I'm Janet Poulos. I'm the 3rd kindergarten teacher at Flex. And just to piggyback a little bit off of that question, I have families that are working and trying to get their kids' education going this year. And several of them, I have the kids doing work in the evening hours, like after dinner. Not that I have, but I mean, that's what works for those families and on the weekends. So I guess the biggest difference that you're going to notice is you have the opportunity to decide when you want to do that, those lessons with your student. And some people have, for a learning coach, they have decided to have a nanny or somebody come in and do that role. I have a grandmother that does it. So you can really do that learning coach, doesn't have to be the parent, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's another big difference. And I'll talk a little bit more about the bonds that we've created with that. Relationships are pretty cool. So the slide we have here is social skills. And one of the big questions, kind of along the question you had, how is school different in Flex online versus the classroom? In the classroom, you know, you've got kids all around and you're making social bonds that way. It's amazing what happens in the online situation. You would think that maybe it would be hard, but just in a room like this where you're together, the kids do develop skills. It's kind of a natural progression in a meeting like this because you can't talk over each other. You have to kind of take turns. You have to listen and be respectful to one another. We also have on the next slide, Oh, and sorry, one more thing on this one. Thank you for not switching. Sorry, can you go back one? I forgot one thing I wanted to say. We have opportunities where we will do directed drawings and kids will talk in whole groups and they will maybe talk about their artwork and they share that way. A lot of times in my meetings, we come in and kids will just talk about what they did over the weekend. We have social bonding that way. We have small groups where kids will have the opportunity to talk more with one another and one-on-one. And go to the next slide if you would. Another thing that we build social skills with are clubs. And so here on the left, we have an example of the baking club. And on the right is an art club. And if your student wanted to have a club and we don't have a club that they're interested in, they can let their teachers know. And we're always looking for new, fresh ideas. If there's enough interest, we will create more clubs. All right, next slide. So another thing with social skills are developed in our counseling lessons. So I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Shawnee Clark, and she'll tell us about that.
Hello, I'm happy to be here. I am the school counselor for our students and families in kindergarten through first grade. And like Janet said, I think one of the biggest concerns that we had heard from families when they start with us is like, where are my kids going to learn how to interact with other kids and be sociable? And I think counseling and the services that I can provide help in that area as well. So every other week, each grade level gets a lesson based around social emotional learning. And especially at like kinder through second grade, in each slide, the students, there's a recording and I kind of teach through those audio recordings. And I've heard from a few different kinder parents that they particularly appreciate that feature because these lessons don't necessarily require a learning coach to sit next to them. So I have one mom that emails me each week and she's like, thank you for my coffee break. Like I set my daughter in front of the lesson and I know she's learning and she knows how to push the buttons and I can enjoy my coffee, you know. I included a drawing here from one of our kinder students this year. Z is a character. So most of these lessons are story-based and we read a story about this alien Z and his friends are teaching him how children on Earth interact. And so in each story, they kind of learn a different lesson about, you know, listening when our friends are talking or how to make friendships or how to be inclusive, make sure that everybody is being included in your activity. I also offer one-on-one short-term counseling for mental health support, skill building. At kinder, a lot of times this looks like emotional regulation. And like some of the kinder teachers have shared, this platform has kind of created a lot of opportunities that I don't know we all anticipated before we got here, and it's been awesome. I can pull students and meet over Zoom so much more than I ever could in a building because I don't have to pull them out of class, right? I can set something up with a parent and say, hey, what time works for you? Can you help them get on Zoom? And we can definitely work on intensive skill building there. We've got small groups and then community resources and referral. This part is not as much about social skills, but I wanted to kind of throw it out there that if you enroll and in the fall you're like, oh, I'm stuck, we're in a hard spot and we could use some help, or we have some questions and I don't really know who to ask, I'm your person. I'm happy to answer any questions. I've done a lot of supporting parents and kind of figuring out like, what does that schedule look like for you at home? Because it really does look different for every family. So I'm happy to work with you on that too, if that's a thing. And I think I can hand it back to Janet.
All right, thank you. So our next slide is another one about social skills, and we are anxiously awaiting when we can do our in-person gatherings and when that's safe. I know this year we haven't been able to do that as much, but we're really looking forward to that next year. So that will be another opportunity for kids to develop those bonds with each other and have social interaction, even face-to-face. So we look forward to that. All right, Flex is about relationships. So I think I've heard almost everybody on the staff say they were surprised at how strong the relationships have become in this setting. It's really, really amazing. So on this graph here, what we tried to show is there are connections between the teacher and the learning coach, the student and the teacher, the student and the learning coach, and the teacher, learning coach, and family. It just goes in every direction. How does that work? At the beginning of the year, the teachers meet in a Zoom call like this. We meet with the families and we get to know the families and the students. That's from day one. And we find out things like, what time of day does your student learn best, so that we can arrange a schedule to meet your needs. Are you interested in live lessons? What are some of your interests, your child's interests? And we really get to know each other that way. We get to know who the learning coach is, and we start the relationship then. In the months that move ahead, we have set up, the teachers will set up a schedule. I shouldn't say in the months, but in the weeks ahead, the teachers will set up schedules based on the parent input. So if your student learns best in the morning, we will try and make their times in the morning. If they learn best in the afternoon, we try and do that. We sometimes try and have morning and afternoon for like whole group. If there are some families that can't do morning, they can do the afternoon, and vice versa. So I think there was a question in the chat about, what if my student can't make the morning? They're only good for afternoon. You're not required to come to the meetings. You're not required to have a small group, but we encourage that. And we will do our best to meet your needs on your schedule. One of the other things that really helps with the relationships is when we are with smaller groups, there are less distractions for the teacher. So if you're in a class, a normal brick and mortar type situation, you're working with a small group of 5 or 6 kids, you're still overseeing the other 20 kids in the classroom. And yes, it usually is as many as 25 kids or more, sometimes up to 26, 27 in kindergarten. So it's really nice. Pardon?
28 or 29.
Yeah, they've been high. So the advantage here is that in our small groups, I think most of our small groups range from 3 to 5, maybe 6 kids. And so you have a lot more time, interaction time with each individual student with a smaller group, and you're not distracted with worrying about the rest of the classroom. So that really helps build some relationships. The learning coach is an awesome relationship, because when I have a meeting, and a small group meeting, and my learning coach is there with the student, they can see what we're working on together. I can offer feedback before they leave. Hey, I noticed so-and-so is working great on this piece. You might want to work a little bit more on the bossy E words. I can slip that in. And that's not something that you're going to get as frequent in a brick and mortar situation. So when we're seeing them every day, or however often we meet as a class or small group, you have a lot more touch points with the learning coach and the students. So that's pretty cool.
Janet, before you move on, we had a question in the chat that can we just define like what a learning coach is? Is it a parent? Does it have to be a parent?
Okay, great
What's
question.
their main job?
Sure. The learning coach is really the person that you have selected to be kind of the main person to work with the student on their curriculum. It does not have to be a parent. It is suggested that it be an adult rather than an older sibling. Older siblings going to have their own work to do. So it should be an adult. It's going to be someone that's going to be sitting next to that child, hopefully during our lessons with this child. And the reason for that is, for example, if we're working on the whiteboard and the student needs to write, the learning coach can help them form their letters and that type of thing. The learning coach will work on the lessons with the student, guiding them through the online curriculum. They'll be the ones to look at the schedule and make sure that the student is at the meetings at the time they need to. And they're the one to kind of manage how the student is going to get through the curriculum on a day-to-day basis. So
can I add, Janet? And also, I have some families too where they need to mix it up a little bit, where 2 days a week it's the babysitter, 1 day it's mom, and 1 day it's dad. So if you can't do each day and you have others that can support you, that's another option also.
That's a great point. I have a family where the parents are divorced, and so there's actually 4 parents, and they have grandparents in, and they've divided it amongst that many adults. So it can work, whatever works best for you.
I have a student that has a nanny, and the nanny is the learning coach. And also one that goes to grandma each day, and so grandma's the learning coach. So it can be anybody.
I have a grandmother as well.
Yeah.
And the learning coach does not do any of the like grading or that kind of thing. Like that's you
No.
guys. It's somebody who can sort of be
They're,
a
they're
teacher
they're
and-
there to support the student to get through the program, to get through the lessons.
Curriculum.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we will be providing, the teachers will be providing the feedback. So the learning coach will submit the student's work, and it's basically just uploading a file. And the kindergarten teachers will have access to that file. We'll look at it and we can put some comments and send it back. And that interaction is helpful for the learning coach to do, because kindergartners, it's a little bit advanced for a kindergartner to be doing that. Older students would be able to do that on their own. Okay, so back to the relationships. I think I mentioned that it's more frequent than maybe you'd have the first day in conference time if you were in the brick and mortar. We have much more frequent contact. And our team also does a lot of frequent assessments, and we provide that data much more often than a couple conferences a year. We provide that very frequently back to the learning coach, and that helps support the learning coach with their role in supporting the students' learning.
We averaged about one a month where they would get information sent to them regarding their students in their reading ability, letters, sounds, beginning sounds, ending sounds, sight word knowledge, and math skills. So you really have a good understanding of how your students are doing and what the next steps is for their learning.
So I have a couple examples before we move on of students that I was been working with this year. So I had one student that the parent called me or about, I don't know, maybe a month in. They were feeling frustrated. The student was frustrated. The student was sad and just losing interest. And I said, you know, let's talk. So I talked to the mom. What I ended up doing was designing a curriculum for that student. I asked to meet the student one-on-one. I asked more about the student's interests. I had the student bring a toy every time and tell me about their toy, get the student talking, get the student excited. I found books and materials that were about dinosaurs and superheroes and things like that the student liked. Not to say that you wouldn't get that in brick and mortar, but when you can have that one-on-one experience that's very dedicated, and again, I'm not distracted by 25 other kids in the classroom, believe me, you've got a nice tight relationship there. And that student now is reading and happy and enjoying it. So it's just a really nice situation for those students that need extra support and need more breaks. I have another student that he needs a lot of breaks in between, and we take them. I met with him and then I said, okay, you know, I'll see you in 4 days. I think it was on a Thursday, and I'll see you on Monday or something. And he's like, 4 days, what? And he goes, aren't I going to meet you tomorrow? And I said, no. And he's like, oh. And I said, do you want to meet tomorrow? And yeah. I said, go get your mom. Let's see if we can meet tomorrow. And we did. So, I mean, it just shows that when you're working smaller groups one-on-one, the relationship is pretty strong. So I don't want to be the only one to tell you about this. So we have some quotes from families. So I'm going to let the next slide go and turn it over to Becca, and she can tell you what her families have said.
I was typing an answer into the to answer your question, Alexis, about oh, and Sarah already has covered it too, but that yes, we would work on writing in school, and any writing you do at home obviously is great, but just make it fun as they're preparing. It's not just sit down and work on letter formation kind of a thing. Just make it fun. Like give your child a piece of paper and a pencil and ask them to write some things for the grocery list, and then you can put it on the refrigerator, and you probably won't be able to read any of it, and that's awesome. So just making it enjoyable and fun for them, and getting them excited about writing. So
Becca, can I tap in on that? And also at the beginning of the year, we talk a lot about how to make writing fun at the beginning with using like sidewalk chalk and like salt trays and wet paintbrushes. So there's lots of ways to make it in a playful manner also.
Absolutely. So some of the quotes from our families this year, this was one of my families said, "We love all of the resources. There's individual attention of the teacher, which has been perfect, the flex curriculum and workbooks, and then also apps on the tablet. It allows us to have a mix of different ways to learn."
And then one of my families said the math and reading life lessons are the best. My kid learns so much from the small group lessons. He also loves to meet his teacher live. It has really been it has been really effective.
All right, and from one of my families, seeing my granddaughter's excitement when she has mastered something are moments to cherish. It is great to be able to pace her learning according to what she needs when she needs it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, team. As you've heard, we just have an amazing team, and there's a lot of flexibility in our system. And for many families, it's just a fantastic fit. So how do you enroll? So let's say you're interested in enrolling in Flex Online. I can show you that actually. Vince, if you don't mind, if you would let me share, if you want to stop sharing, thank you so much. And I will share my screen here in 1 second. It's actually pretty straightforward. All right, can somebody give me a thumbs up that you can see my screen? Excellent. So the first thing you want to do is just visit the Beaverton School District homepage. You can just search for Beaverton School District in Google and you'll find it right there. Under schools, so if you hover over schools, you'll see all the different schools. On the right, on the right over here is the online school category. And of course, we're the only online school in the district. So you'd click on the online school Flex. We're not under these categories because we cover them all. So they had to make a special category for us. And so then that's why we're over here on the right. So you click on Flex. And so now you're at our website. And then the way to find out about how to enroll is you hover over About Us. And then the top menu item is How to Enroll at Flex Online School. And there you go. So there's the application enrollment for the 2021-22 school year. One thing that's very important, if you are not currently enrolled in the Beaverton School District, the first thing you need to do is actually enroll at your neighborhood boundary school. And then once you're enrolled in the system for the Beaverton School District, then you can actually enroll in Flex. And so that's just the one extra step that you have to take. There's some questions and answers down here at the bottom. And of course, we always encourage you, if you ever have any questions, you can just reach out to us. We are happy to talk to you. And I believe under Connect, there's a Contact Us. And you can see our email right there, or you can call our main office, and we're always happy to help. All right, Vince, do I have another slide still? I can't recall. I do, okay. Do you want to go ahead and show that slide? It's a senior moment for me.
It's just a repeat of the everyone's.
Oh, that's good though. So you'll see that it's kind of awkward, but we don't put our email addresses on the web anymore. And that is, unfortunately, that is due to spam or hackers or folks using those email addresses in inappropriate ways. We do, however, have a very simple way to find us. And that is, for instance, for our teacher, Paula Dell, it's just your first name _ your last name, and then this big long @beaverton.k12.or.us. And so that's how you could email the teachers directly. I might encourage you to take a screenshot or a picture with your phone if you want to write those down. And you can email them directly and they'd be happy to help you with that. All right, let's see. We have another question in the chat.
Sure. The tablet and the curriculum materials are provided to the student before the school year starts, correct? Do we expect those in the mail, or are those things we pick up?
Yeah, great question. Yes, the tablet and curriculum are provided. We encourage you to do a pickup. We have had families, because of course we service the entire geographic area of the Beaverton School District. For some families, that's been a challenge, and we have been able to deliver. It's not something that we promote for everybody. We can't deliver to all families, but so most families just come and pick it up, and we'll schedule times when you can do that. Sometimes too, and I could let the kindergarten teachers speak to this, is we'll have maybe supplies like Play-Doh or other art supplies, and then that'll go along with the curriculum, and that same kind of thing. We provide those. And maybe I'd ask one of the teachers if you want to talk about some of the other supplies you've used.
Yeah, that's an important part though. The supplies that are needed for the lessons are provided. I think the only thing that wasn't provided was a whiteboard, but if a student needed assistance getting a whiteboard, then we could definitely help them with that. But the Play-Doh, gosh, forgetting the name of it, but the little bendable.
Oh, the kind of the pipe cleaner.
Pipe cleaners, thank you. Yeah, the pipe cleaners, all those materials that are needed for the lessons are provided in addition to the writing paper. And another thing that's important for us to mention is anything that the student is working on, any of the papers that are within the program, those are already printed out and binded for the students. You don't need to print any of the work from the curriculum. It will all be provided for you.
Yep, great. Thank you so much. I think you can stop sharing, Vince, unless I have another. Yep, perfect.
I think maybe I might have lied in the chat in terms of saying that you guys were going to talk about things that they could do over the parents or families could do over the summer to try to help kids be more ready for, and then that maybe I dreamed that was part of the presentation. Do you guys want to cover that a little bit so I'm not a total liar?
We can talk about that for sure. I think just in general, no matter where your child ends up in kindergarten, it's a good thing to start working on counting. It's a good thing to start noticing letters around the world, where you see signs, pointing out shapes. If your student is recognizing letters, working on writing them, working on the sounds. Read to your child, read to your child. It's a wonderful habit to read to your child, like every night, curl up with a good book and make it just that special time they treasure, and they just can't wait to sit down with a good book. And the other thing I would say is, remember, you are their teacher. You are their number one teacher. You are the one they're going to look to most. What they see you do, they're going to do. When they see you read, they're going to read. So just keep in mind that. I would say you can do fun things like with counting if you're just like setting the table and have them count the silverware as they're putting it down, little things like that. Count the stairs as they're walking up. Just keep it fun.
I would also work on fine motors. Like, it's fine for them to start getting a pair of scissors and learning that your thumb goes up, raises up as you cut, and just practice cutting straight lines. Practicing buttoning their shirts, snapping their pants, all those little fine motor skills to help build those independence, because we want that strength in their hands when we really go to work on that formation for letter writing. Even just hitting a soft balloon and having them catch it. Any of those fine motor skills and basic gross motor skills is really helpful for kindergartners. And also letting them, I know this sounds a little unkind, but it's not meant to be unkind, but letting them struggle a little bit. One thing that kindergartners need to understand is that they learn through the process of not knowing the answer right away, and that is okay. That's a lifelong skill. We don't always know the answer right away. And so if they have to work a little bit to get to something, that's fine. And especially the way our lives are right now, that so many things are immediate for them, that they immediately get that gratification. And so for them having to work a little bit for it, that's okay too. We don't expect students coming in knowing all their letters, all their sounds, having perfect formation, their numbers. We take the students where they are. We have some students that come in and reading, and we have some students coming in not knowing one letter at all, and that's okay. Wherever your child comes in, that is fine. We take them where they are and just progressively, provide lessons for them to build those skills as we go through the year.
Definitely. I really suggest, as Janet said, that for me, the biggest thing is that just reading 15 minutes a night to your child, there's evidence, they've done studies. And if you do that, that sets them up for just a lifetime of learning and success. So that's just that little short amount of time makes such a difference.
That's the most important thing that you can do as a parent.
Absolutely.
One other thing, try and practice holding a pencil. Some kids come in like this, and it's hard. The longer you wait, the harder it is to break that habit. So if you can teach your child to hold a pencil, that's a big thing. Yeah.
Just have fun.
Yeah.
Make it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a great question in the chat about keeping the tablet until they leave Flex or as a return to the end of the school year. In the Beaverton School District for Flex and at Flex, the student will always have a device. And so as Sarah already said, is sometimes our information systems team wants the devices back over the summer, and actually sometimes they don't. So it kind of depends on the specifics of that device and whether, like this year, we had iPads that have now sort of aren't compatible with the latest, and so we've replaced those. And so we want to make sure we get all the iPads back so we can make sure we have the latest version when students start in the fall. But your students at Flex will always have a device. And they'll change to a Chromebook in later years, but they'll always have a device. So.
Oh, and along those lines, some families were nervous about the online situation and learning new things. There is a lot of support for those of you that may not know these systems. We didn't know the system. We learned them out. We learned them. We are here for you. Teachers have office hours or support hours every day. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. We are here every day. You can contact us during that time. You can send an email another time. We'll get back to you. There's a tech support line within Beaverton. If it's not something we can solve, we know the people to direct you to. It'll get solved. So there have been some situations where a family had to swap out a device. Doesn't happen very often, but we're not going to leave you high and dry with the technology. So don't worry about that. We've totally got your back on that.
Yep, great point.
There's another question in the chat about could a family potentially purchase their own device to use, or are the devices that come from the Beaverton School District equipped with certain programs?
Yeah, great question. Actually, a really common question. You certainly can use your own device. Not all devices are compatible with all the systems we use. And so if you wanted to find out about that, you could just shoot us a message and we'd be happy to talk to you or provide support from our tech person or our tech department. We have, in some cases, families already had a device and they wanted to use the one they had. We have no restriction on that. We just can't guarantee the same experience. And so if you feel confident and comfortable at home that you can manage that device, that's totally fine. The only other thing we would caution you on is if you had a tech support issue, we may or may not be able to support at the same level that device as we could with one that we're really familiar with. But we have many families using their own devices. I'm not so sure as much at the kindergarten level. We have more in the higher grades where students will have their own computers or families will, but all of our curriculum is online, meaning that anywhere, if let's say you're at a different household, if they had an internet connection, they can access the curriculum, contact the teacher. And so you have that capability of pretty much on any device. Yep, good question.
I would have as if it was for a kindergarten student is that if you choose to get your own device, as Paul said, that's fine. But I would also get the school device too, because we push out some math apps that are appropriate for kindergartners that are very fun and playful manner. So then that way they would have access to those too. If they had their own device, we couldn't push those out to them.
Yep, great point. And of course, it's not a matter of you don't get one because you have your own, like Paula was pointing out. You get a device regardless of what you have at home. So, yep. These are great questions. We really appreciate it. So I've been known to sit here in dead silence because I'm good at it. So I'm not going to sit here in dead silence for too long. But if somebody else wants to, I don't know, Sarah, do you have any of your fantastic questions you have in the bank, or Shani, or anybody wants to pipe in? That would be great, because you know me, I'll sit here in dead silence.
One thing I think that is fair to say is when you start a new school year, you generally do buy school supplies. And so that's something that families would still do. They might still need crayons and, you know, pencils. For us, it's nice to have a small whiteboard and a dry erase marker, something to wipe off with. Those types of things would be something that we don't supply, but you would be like your normal back to school kind of list.
Good.
And because you had asked in the chat about kind of how the schedule works, I remembered I did want to mention, you know, there is a ton of flexibility and you can arrange your schedule however works for you. But what I've noticed in talking to families throughout the year is that it really seems to help kids if you have some consistency. So that's fine if school happens at 5 p.m. after work, like that's great. But I think it really helps kids if it's always around like a similar time, if you can do that.
Have a routine.
Mm-hmm.
Have a routine and stick to it, and the kids are more likely to be ready to go during that time. Yeah.
Yep, another thing I would say that we noticed when we started the year, and of course the teachers already talked about that, everybody did, is that we were all learners. So we were all learning very quickly. But a learning coach is such an important, the family and the learning coach are such an important partner in what we're doing. And we understand that you have a learning time and it's going to take you a time to settle in and sort of get a routine. And so you can't worry that if you start out, it feels a little clumsy or you're still getting things settled. You know, we will work with you in those first couple of weeks to help settle you into a schedule that works. That was a common, there were a lot of questions about that in the beginning, and it was amazing. A few weeks in, and all of a sudden, people were like, "Okay, we got this. This is okay." It just takes a little while to get used to it. So,
along that line, I was going to say, along that line, our team has put together a support document. We've got anything that we worked on, or the learning coach would need to know. We've got a how to use it document for you. So, and even we refer to it back time. I mean, we've got how to draw your letters, how do you help your student draw your letters or draw the numbers? How do I get to this extra reading thing? How do I submit my work, the student's work? Everything, it's all there. So we're trying to let you know the support is there. If you have a question that we haven't covered, it's going in that spot and we'll make sure it's there and you've got an answer.
see, I promised I'd do it. Here we go. Becca, you were going to say something. We sort of, you know, it's the awkward Zoom. Nobody knows who's talking. What were you going to talk about?
Oh, no. I was just saying that we're available anytime. Give yourself a lot of grace. I had a lot of parents in the beginning that were like, "I'm sorry," and they would fall behind. And you know, that's the other thing, that if you get a little behind, you know, there's always ways to catch up. And so I always was able to tell my families, just, you know, give yourself a lot of grace. And I was always available to help them. So.
And I think that's a really good point, Becca, because one of the main benefits of our format, just in general, K through 12, is that as opposed to students having to adapt to our schedule, meaning that we're all in lockstep at the same pace, our students are actually allowed to work at a pace that's comfortable for their learning speed. And so some of our students will very quickly go through a set of lessons and be ahead. And you know what? That's great. And some will be behind on another one, and that's fine as well. And so the ability of the teachers to work with the students and families and individualize the instruction is really powerful. And they've mentioned that many, many times this evening. Another thing to point out too is that when we provide curriculum, our online curriculum actually includes all the subjects. And I don't know, maybe one of you could talk about all the different subjects that the kindergartners get.
We have language arts, which incorporates reading and writing, and math and science and social studies. There's also an art module and a PE module that we modified a bit because it was a lot of reading and we really wanted the kids to be more active. So we changed that a little bit more, but those were the 6 basic courses. And then we also would have that counseling course that's there for Ms. Clark as well, where her lessons are found there as well. So there's really 7 that you would see on your what's called the dashboard. And we walk you all through all this terminology, that course and dashboard and all of that. We walk you through all of that in the beginning. So no need to worry about that.
Our language arts also incorporates our phonics and phonemic awareness lessons, and we have support lessons for that also. And our live lessons at the beginning of the year are often heavier on that content. And as we progress through the year, then focus on other needed skills at the time too. But I think one thing for us as kindergarten teachers, we talked about this about halfway through the year, being new to an online program, not knowing if it would be as effective as a brick and mortar, because the 3 of us have been teaching 20 years plus. So all of us were surprised at how rigor it was and how effective it was and how much our students have progressed in all the different subjects. And so that's exciting for us to see that many of our students are excelling at the same pace, if not further or faster than our students in the brick and mortar. So having the experience of brick and mortar and online, it's definitely effective and the kids just thrive.
One other thing, I don't know if we mentioned this, but Flex is similar to any other school that in terms of providing services. So we mentioned the counseling services tonight. I don't know if we've mentioned English second language services. And Paul, I don't know if there's anything more that you want to talk about that, but Flex covers things just like any other school would.
Yeah, thanks, Janet. That's a really, really good point. We do provide the exact same services from identification to testing to if the student is a emerging language learner, we have an emerging language learner teacher for those students and for support. And then also any students with special needs, special education, individual education plans, all of those things are supported as well. There are some cases that the services that are needed are really better delivered through brick and mortar, but we will work with all the families in the beginning and make sure that we are a good fit for you. But we uphold all the same requirements and meet all those needs. And we have those specialized teachers on staff as well. So you would actually have additional staff supporting your students. So, yep, that's a great point, Janet. Thanks for bringing that up.
And she does a really great job too, scheduling those lessons around our live lessons. So there's never any overlapping of those.
Yep. We've got about 4 minutes left in our session this evening. We are so glad that you're here. Please don't hesitate to ask questions if you have any more questions. And if we've answered all your questions tonight, you know, that's great as well. So. All right, we'll give you about another minute because we don't want to hold you hostage here. But if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to let us know. You can put them in the chat. Otherwise, we will have this recorded. We'll post the recording on our website. And we'll also try to retain some of the questions if we don't have them already covered on our documents. And as the kindergarten team has said, they have an amazing wealth of question and answers on their documents as well. So we are all here to help. We want to make sure you make the best decision for your family. We're not here to sell you on anything. We just think what we do is great. We also think what our brick and mortar schools do is great. So we're an option for a lot of families that has worked really, really well. So for the right family, we're a great option. All right, I think we covered it. Again, thank you so much for coming this evening. Thank you, everybody. Shawnee, Becca, Paula, Vince, Sarah, and Janet. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for joining us this evening. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have more questions. Have a good evening. Thank you so
for your
much.
interest.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.